This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so Parsha Lech Lecha once again, Perek Yud Bet Pasuk Aleph, page 54, and we're going through the Nisyonot, the challenges of Avraham, and they become our challenges. We all have our challenges in life. The Nisayon is not for God to know can I or can't I, but it is to push me that I actually bring to fruition. I realize kochot that I have, abilities that I have, and I become a different person. And that's the idea of Lech Lecha. It's a journey where? To yourself. It's a journey of self-realization. And as we've discussed in the past, Hashem tells him to go me'artzecha, from your land, mimoladetecha, from your birthplace, umi beit avicha, from the house of your father. And we've discussed in the past that the order is reversed over here. You first leave your father's house, then you leave your birthplace, and then you leave your land. So why does it say to first leave the land and then your birthplace and then the house of your father? And as we've discussed, this is a clear indication that this is not a physical journey, or it's not primarily a physical journey, but it is a spiritual journey. And you first would need to leave behind the aspects of your land. He lived in an idolatrous land, to leave those aspects behind. But it's even harder to give up the aspects of your birthplace. And certainly imprinted into our psyche is our upbringing, the house of our parents, and Avram. And that was the third step, the more difficult step, to leave that behind as he is going out to start on a whole new path. And we've also, Pasuk Beth, and I'll make you into a great nation. V'avarechecha, I will bless you. V'agadla shemecha, and I will make your name great. V'heyeh bracha, and you will be a bracha. Now, a blessing. Now, that's a pretty good offer. That's a pretty good offer over here. Wow. I'm going to have fame, fortune, founder of a nation. That sounds pretty good. Why was this such a difficult test? Right? If God would speak to me and say, do this and I'll make you rich, I'll make you famous, you'll be a founder of a nation. Sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty tempting. Doesn't sound like it is such a difficult test. But some point out the next pasuk, pasuk Dalid, verse 4, Vayelech Avram kasher diber elav Hashem. Avram went. Why? Because God told him to. Right? One way is as God told him, but it can be because God told him to. Meaning he was not going because of the promise, the guarantee of the fame and fortune, but rather he went because God told him to go. Whatever will be, will be. I'm not going because of the riches. There's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot that says, Al tihi ke'eved, don't be like a servant who's serving the master, almanat l'kabel pras, in order to receive reward. Rather do it, shelo almanat l'kabel pras, do it not for the reward. Right, the service to Hashem we do because He's keeping us alive. He's giving us everything that we have, because we are overwhelmed with gratitude, with thanks to Him. That is why we should be serving Hashem. If there will be reward also, okay, so be it. But not doing it for that. Avram went kasher diber elav Hashem, as Hashem had spoken to him. V'yelech ito Lot, and Lot went along with him on this great journey. Now, a couple of points that I'd like to touch upon today and focus on today. We don't know much about Avram, and we've discussed this before and gone in a different angle. But let's set it up again. God says to Avram, go and I'll make you into a great nation. Great. What? Who's Avram? Where did this all come from? If we go back to the end of Noach, all we see is on page 50, towards the bottom over there, on page 50, which is Perek Yud Aleph, Pasuk Chavav, 1126, Terach lived 70 years and gave birth to Avram and to Nachor and to Haran. Right, my three sons right here, Avram, Nachor, and Haran. And Haran gave birth to Lot. Okay, so now we have three brothers and we have a nephew, Lot. And Haran died in Ur Kasdim. And Avram and Nachor took wives. Sarai, and the name of it, right, that was Avram, and Milcah, who were the daughters of Haran, Avi Milcah, Avi Yiska. Yiska is another name for Sarah. So they married the daughters of their late brother. They did a form of Yibum. Sarai was barren, cannot have any children. Terach takes Avram, his son, and Lot, his grandson. Sarai, his daughter-in-law. And they left Ur Kasdim to go to the land of Canaan. And they came to Haran and they settled there. And Terach lived 205 years, and Terach died. We don't hear anything about Avram. What did he do? He did Yibum. He married his late brother's daughter. So did Nachor. And then all of a sudden over here, God says, Avram, you become a great nation. Now keep in mind, going what we were saying before, that it was a great offer. His wife was barren, no children. And now God's promising, you do this and you become a great nation, he'll have children. Right? This is a win-win situation. But he went because God told him to. But again, where's Avram landing over here? Where are we coming from? So we know the Medrash. The Medrash says about Ur Kasdim, mentioned back over there in Pasuk Chavchet. Ur Kasdim, Ur means fire. And there was a fire in Kasdim, and we know the famous Medrash that Avram had broken the idols of his father Terach's idol store. And he was brought to Nimrod, and Nimrod said, bow down to the idol or throw you into the fire. And Avram refused to bow down, and he was thrown into the furnace, and he came out alive. Haran was literally sitting on the fence. Do I go with Nimrod's idolatry? Do I go with my brother Avram's crazy ideas about this God? He saw Avram was saved. He said, I'm with him, I'm with Avram. But he was not there wholeheartedly. He was thrown into the furnace, and that's why Haran died. All of this is Medrash. Beautiful. But the Torah doesn't say a word about it. And we've discussed in the past that perhaps the Torah doesn't say a word about it because that was Avram's path. But everyone has their own path, and we don't want to lock in. It's got to be intellectual. It's got to be emotional. It's got to be through scrutiny. Right? All the different ways that people come to their connection to God. And the Torah did not want to say this is the path. And therefore it left out Avram's background. But there are some very interesting textual connections that we're going to make that I saw on aleph-beta.org. And I think they're very, very important and very revealing, that there are certain textual parallels that will open up a lot of understanding over here. Let's just go through the story a little bit further. Back now in Lech Lecha. So they go, and they went to go to the land of Canaan. Verse 6, page 56, they come to the land of Canaan. They go to Elon Moreh, the Canaanites were there. God appears to Avram and says, to your descendants I will give this land. And he builds a Mizbeach. To Hashem appeared. He then started to travel to Beit El. pitched his tent. And what did he do again? Again, he built an altar to Hashem, and he called out in the name of Hashem. And Avram kept going, traveling towards the Negba, towards the south. And then there's a famine in the land. What does Avram do? He goes down to Egypt. Now, we have a concept of Masa Avot Siman Lebanim. That which happens with the fathers is a sign of that which will happen with the children. And just hear this little story now. There's a famine in the land. Avram goes down to Egypt because of the famine. And then he says to his wife, Sarah, I see you're very beautiful. I'm afraid you'll be taken. They'll kill me. Say that you're my sister. And that way things will go well. And that's exactly what happened. He came to Egypt. The Egyptians saw the beautiful woman. They praised her to Paro. She was taken to the house of Paro. Avram was given riches, given gifts. Hashem smote the house, page 58 of Paro, with these different negaim, with these different plagues. And then he sends him out. Why didn't you say, take your wife and go? And he sends him out. Right? This is almost like a little microcosm. Why did we go down to Egypt? Why did the brothers all go down to Egypt?
Also a famine.
Because there was a famine. Right?
Although it seems like Yaakov wasn't as affected as much, but it seems like he also
Correct.
didn't.
He wasn't so desperate, but it was because of a famine that we went down to Egypt. And then we were taken captive there eventually, as Sarah was. And then plagues came and we were released. Okay, so a little constant microcosms that we have. Masa avot siman lebanim. That which happens to the avot, that is a sign for the banim, a sign for the children of that which will happen. Now, if we read the story, it doesn't sound all that great for Avram. There are two ways of viewing his going down to Egypt in the first place. Rashi views it in a positive manner. Rashi says this was also a nisayon, that God told him to go down to the land of Israel. He went to the land of Israel, and there's no food. So he had to leave. So why, God, are you sending me to a place where there's no food, there's no sustenance? But he didn't question God. And that way he passed this challenge. Ramban views it differently. Ramban says Avram made a mistake over here. Avram made a mistake over here. God told him to go to Israel. He went to Israel. There's no food. God will take care of you. Wait and see. You don't just pick up and leave. Plus, picking up and leaving, saying that Sarai is my sister. Right? Now, according to the commentators, he said she's my married sister. Right? If she's my wife, then they can take care of that. They'll kill me, and you're no longer a married woman, and they'll take you. Therefore, it's in both of our best interests if I'll say that you're my sister, and you're my married sister. Therefore, they shouldn't take you because you are a married person, and there's no reason to kill me because killing me won't change your status. But nevertheless, Ramban says this was a mistake to put his wife in danger over here. So Ramban, exact term is, I think, chet chata, right? A sin was committed over here by Avram. Avram made a mistake over here. And to me, this is such an important, fundamental concept that at the very beginning, we're told Avram made mistakes because we tend to glorify our heroes. They're perfect. right? They can walk on water, right? They're perfect. They don't do anything wrong. And we're being told right away, you know what? Avram made some mistakes along the way. He's the great, great Avraham. He's the founder of our nation, but he made some mistakes along the way. Moshe, we know, made mistakes along the way. And that's so important because we also make some mistakes along the way. And if we turn our leaders into these perfect souls who never do anything wrong, so then that's not inspiring to me. That's depressing to me, because that means that so look at me. Who am I? What can I become? But when we look at them and understand that they trip and they get up and they keep on going, so when we trip, that gives us the encouragement to get up and to keep on going. So Avram made mistakes. Sarah, later in the Parsha, where she is very harsh with Hagar, Ramban says also that was a mistake. And actually Ramban says the problems that exist between the descendants of Sarah, the Jewish people, and the descendants of Hagar, the Arab peoples, that is all as a result of Sarah and Hagar and her treatment, the way Sarah had treated Hagar. So we are human beings, and as humans, we do a lot of good, and we also make our mistakes along the way, and that is not a reason to throw in the towel. That is a reason to recognize our humanity with our human frailties, and to each day try to get a little bit better, be a little bit stronger, and draw a little bit closer to Hashem. Let's now double back and keeping our place over here, looking at these psukim on page 56. Let us double back to page 48, Perek Yud Aleph, Pasuk Aleph, which is the story of the Tower of Babel. Okay, page 48, chapter 11, Pasuk Aleph, Yud Aleph Aleph. Vayihi chol haaretz safa echat udvarim achadim. All the land was one language and of one common purpose. Vayihi, and it was b'nas'am mikedem, and it was when they traveled from the east. Vayimtzu'u bik'ah be'eretz Shinar, they found a bik'ah, a valley in the land of Shinar, vayeshvu sham, and they settled over there. Vayomer isha re'eu, and one person said to his friend, Hava, come, nilbana levenim, let us make our own bricks, v'nisrafa l'sreifa, right, and burn them in a fire. V'tehilahem aleveina la'aven, and the bricks now replaced the stones. V'achem hayalem l'chomer, and the bitumen served them as mortar. So what are they doing? Instead of using stones for building materials, they made their own bricks, right? And as Matthias spoke on Shabbos by us, right? This was their technology. They wanted to use technology. I mentioned on Friday night, they wanted to use their technology, the biblical technology, which is making bricks, in order to replace and to forget God. Right? The pasuk says the bricks became for them this stone. Meaning, if I'm building a house out of stone, wherever I look, I see God's creation. I see what God formed. I see God's stones. And I recognize and I appreciate my dependency upon God. But by turning their bricks into stone, now they would say, hey, we've got it. We've got it covered. I've got it. I don't need God. I can handle this. And on Friday night, I spoke about how technology often leads us to making us think that we're in control. And certainly during this COVID world that we're living in, we recognize that we're not in control. With all of our technological, medical, scientific advances, we're not in control. We are not in control. Vayomer, when they said, Posik Dalet, verse 4, Hava nivna lanu ir, come, let us build a city. Umigdal, with a tower. V'rosho bashamayim, and its head will reach up to the heavens. V'naseh lanu shem, and we will make for ourselves a shame, a name. Pen nafutz al pnei chol haaretz, lest we will be dispersed throughout all of the land. And the rest we know, Hashem came down, right? The Torah almost writes in a humorous way. We're going to build this great tower. Wow, so high. So what does it say? God came down. That's how tall your tower is. God came down, right? In order to see and confuse their languages and spread them out. Let us keep our hand over here and let us see the parallels. Let's start Pasuk Bet. And it came to pass when they migrated from the east, they came to a valley in the land of Shinar, and they settled there. Let's compare that back to where we were on page 56, Perek Yud Bet, Pasuk Chet. Right? In Pasuk Zayin, Hashem appeared to Avram and said to your descendants, I will give this land. And he built there an altar to Hashem who had appeared to him. Vayatek Pasuk Chet, Vayatek Misham Hahara Mikedem LeBeit El. From there he relocated to the mountain east of Beit El. Interesting. So they were migrating from the east. Abraham is relocated to the mountain east. And what did they do there? And what did Avram do there? What does the Pasuk say that they did there? Back in Yud Aleph, back in chapter 11. What did they do there? What does the Pasuk say? Vayeshvu Sham. What did they do? They settled over there. What does it say by Avram? What did he do there?
Journeyed.
He journeyed, and then what did he do? Vayet Ahalo. What did he do?
Put the tent, so it's like temporary. It's not settling.
Good. He pitched his tent. Right? He pitched his tent. They settled there. He pitched his tent. They were going to be firmly established, rooted. Abraham understood, recognized, realized that what is he? Traveling. Vayet Ahalo. And then they each built. What did they build back in chapter 11?
The tower for themselves.
Good. Hava nivna lanu ir. Umigdal, come, let us build a city and a tower, Verosho Bashamayim, and it will reach up to the heavens. Avram also built. What did Avram build back in Parak Yud Bet? What did he build?
Mizbeach LaAdonai.
He built a Mizbeach. He built an altar to Hashem. Why did they want to build the city? What does it say back in Yud Aleph and 11? Why were they building this city? V'na'aseh lanu shame. What were they saying? Let us make for ourselves shame, a name.
A legacy, something to be known by.
Good. Let us make for ourselves a name, a legacy. Like Janice said, something to be known by. What did Avram do?
On the face of it, again, I see now from Dr. Lehman's commentary and your commentaries, I get it a little bit more and a little bit more. But on the face of it, to want to, when the deal is, I will make you a great nation, and that sounds like a very good deal. So that's sort of natural to what Hashem has imbued us with. I don't see so far on the face of it what's so wrong with wanting to have a little legacy.
Okay, good.
I mean, I get now the other things going on, but that's not so that's not so Russia, I don't think.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's just contrast this though to Avram. Vayiven Sham Perek Yud Bet 12 Pasuk Chet 8. Vayiven Sham Mizbeach LaHashem. He built there an altar for Hashem. Vayikra b'shem Hashem. They wanted to have a shame. They wanted to have a name. They wanted to have a legacy. Right? And Jan is saying, so what's so terrible about that? And we'll come to that. I'm not saying it's so terrible, but we'll come to that. But by Avram, what do we find? Also shame, also name. But what is the name by Avram? Not Naselanu shame, not that we'll make for ourselves a name, but Vayikra b'shem Hashem, to call out in the name of Hashem. Yes, Ruthie.
So he understands that Hashem is above him, and the name should be his. And they really want to lefaer and to make themselves are the one that is in the main, instead of like recognizing that there's somebody above them, that Hashem is above them.
Correct. Okay, good.
Maybe
good.
they wanted to replace Hashem, because if their tower goes all the way to heavens, then they become God themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I guess, where the problem was. They just stopped recognizing Hashem being above.
They wanted to replace. You know, it's interesting. Why do we wear a kippah? Why do we wear a kippah? What's the point of a kippah?
You remember that Hashem is above us.
Right. So a kippah is also called a yarmulke.
Yeah.
Right. And yarmulke comes from yarei me Eloka, to be in awe of God, meaning to recognize that God's above, I'm here, so I need a little bit of a separation. I don't want to, I need to recognize that there's a very severe, very serious separation difference between this head and God's head, right? They wanted to go right up to the heavens. They wanted to equalize, to replace. Okay, so we see very, very clear progression of the differences between the Dor Haflaga, the generation of the Tower of Babel, what their pursuit was, what they wanted to accomplish, and the goal, the pursuit, the drive of an Avraham. Right here, he's going to this land, but nevertheless, he's traveling. Right, even before this pasuk, he came to pasuk Vav in 12. He came to Shechem. Right, he built an altar. He then moved to Beit El, and he built an altar. And then he kept traveling, going towards the south. And we know from later on, what was the point of Avram's travels? Why was he going from place to place? What was he doing?
Gathering people.
Gathering people. He was spreading the teaching about this God. If you look back to page 54, so it says there, Avram took Sarai his wife, Parak Yud Bet Pasuk Hey, verse 5. Avram took Sarai his wife, Lot his nephew, and all their property, and the Nefesh Asher Asu Bicharan, and the souls they made in Haran. What does that mean? So Rashi brings, well, simple meaning could be, their households, servants that they had. But the first explanation Rashi gives is the souls that they made, those people that they had taught about this omnipotent God of the world, as opposed to the idolatry that was prevalent then. So Avram was all about making a name for God. Yes, Cheryl.
I'm not sure if this is true, but I read this, and they're describing the Babel era as a totalitarian type of thing, where the people really didn't, they were told what to do. And I don't really know, but perhaps they were just following what they were told. So here, though, Moshe is teaching and not telling and not, giving propaganda about what to do, but having them think for themselves and realize for themselves.
Yeah. So that's a very important point, right? Remember we said over there back in Yud Aleph, it was Dvarim Achadim, right? They were all of one Dvarim, all of one words. Everyone had to say the same thing. You had your thought police, and no one was allowed to dissent. Yeah, and this I spoke about Friday night. My tia spoke about it Shabbos morning. That this is we saw in the 20th century where totalitarianism went, whether it was through communist Soviet Union or where it was through Nazi Germany, right? When there's no word for dissent, that's not how humanity prospers. And Rabbi Sachs Zatzal would very often point out that the role of the Jew is to serve as the other, as the one who is different. And that's why they say that anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine, meaning how a society treats its Jews is a foreboding of what's going to happen with that society, because the Jews are the epitome of the other. We're different. And how a society treats those who are different is the indication of how the society is going to either implode, because if everyone has to be the same, then totalitarianism leads to destruction. Yeah. Coming back though over here, let's examine the point that Janet made. Right? There are many people who want to make a name for themselves, and they'll have their names on buildings. They want to have a certain permanence that will outlive them, right? And let's go back actually to the very start of Lech Lecha. What did Hashem say to him? Hashem said, "Go, me'artzecha, etc." Pasuk Bet. I'll make you into a great nation. I will bless you. Va'agadla shemecha, and your name will be great. So that was the promise, right? All the nations, the families of the land will be blessed through you. So Hashem told Avram, I'll make your name great. So what is wrong with wanting to have a great name? And what was wrong with the Dor Haflaga, with the Dor Haflaga, with the generation of the separation of the Tower of Babel? What was wrong with trying to have a name? What's wrong with that?
Is it the opposite of having faith in a higher power, just having faith in yourself as a human, feeling like now you have the technology, you can do anything. You don't need Hashem, you don't need a higher power. Maybe.
Okay. It's the sense that I'm in control. I've got it. Right? You know, the greatest mitzvah. Yeah, Cheryl, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that it's just contrary to Judaism as I see it. I mean, everything that we learn is to think of others and be kind and to do things modestly and not put your name out there.
Okay. So what was this Agadla Shemecha that God said to Avram? Don't worry, I'll give you a great name.
Does he mean like a bad name? Because that's what we did end up getting.
It says in Avos, Tov, Shem Tov,
Shem Tov, Shemet.
right?
Maybe it's a great name of not like a great name to make you not modest or anything like that, to make you to show that you're a leader in Hashem's ways.
Okay. Right? You know, one of the greatest mitzvot we have is Kiddush Hashem, which is to sanctify, to bring honor to Hashem's name. Right? So let's come back to what Janet had said. Why does a person why do they want this tower? Why do they want this city? Why is it that a person wants to have this lasting name? I think a person wants to touch eternity. A person wants to, we recognize we are human and we have a certain amount of time here, and the years go by, and we recognize the years are going by, and we want to have a certain sense of permanence. We want to have a certain eternity. And we're supposed to have that. That is a drive that we have, that is a good drive. It is a proper drive. But the way that we are meant to do that, to create that eternity, is through our connecting to that which is eternal, through our connecting to God, who is eternal. That is the way. A mitzvah. What is a mitzvah? A mitzvah is a commandment. But a mitzvah comes from the Aramaic word savita, which means accompaniment. A mitzvah is a way of connecting us to eternity, connecting us to God, who is eternal. And every mitzvah is meant to bring us to that awareness that we are connected to this eternal God. And we could do mitzvot, and as we're doing the mitzvah, we have no connection to God. But that's really missing the point. The idea of the mitzvah is to connect us to that which is eternal. And a tov, shem tov, mishem and tov, a good name is better than good oil. That is when that shame is being used for eternity. That name is being used as, he's got a great name. He's a very honest person. He's a very kind person. Meaning the shame is about the things which connect us to that eternity. Hashem said to Avram, "V'agadla shemecha, I will make your name great." And what will Avram do with that great name of his? He will use that great name, Vayikra, as we saw 12 psukim later, 8 psukim later, Vayikra, 8 psukim later, Vayikra b'shem Hashem. He called out in the name of Hashem. So he wants to take that shame, that name, but like Jenny had pointed out, as opposed to the Dor Haflaga, where the name was all about themselves and separating themselves from God, cutting God out of the equation. There's no need for him. We've got it covered. We're good. We've got it. Our technology will allow us to remove God from the picture. That is a name that will certainly crumble. It's just a matter of time until that name crumbles. Every building with a name on it will eventually crumble. If the idea is my name, it's going to crumble. But if the idea is I could use my name to bring out Vayikra b'shem Hashem, to call out in the name of Hashem, that is what gives the meaning to V'agadla shemecha. I will make your name great. And I always like to point out, if we had to pick one person that today is October what? October 12th, 2021. Who is a person that more people in the world today are connected to than any other person? Person who's living, a person who has died. Who is the person that today, October 12th, 2021, who is the person that most people, that there are more people in the world that connect to that person than to any other person?
Themselves?
Okay, but I want one person. That's true, Lech. I want one person.
How about Abraham?
I think so, right? You know, if a person wants to say Jesus, well, granted, all the Christians of the world, the billions of Christians in the world, connect to him, but we Jews certainly don't, and Muslims don't really connect. Muhammad, wow, you've got all of the Muslims, but not Jews, not Christians, right? Buddha, you've got all of the Buddhists, but you don't have any Jews, Muslims, or Christians. Who is the one person that more than anyone else, the most people in the world would identify with, align with? I think it's Avram. I think it's Abraham. I think it's Ibrahim. I think that's who it is. So it's incredible that Hashem said to him, do this. Va'agadla shemecha, I'll make your name great. And do you know what Hebrew year Avram was born in? Once I tell you, you'll never forget. Anybody know which Jewish year of the Jewish calendar, what year Avram was born? Once I tell you, you'll never forget. 1948, the year 1948, right? From creation. That is the year that Abraham was born. And now we're at 5782. Okay? So we're 3,000 plus years since this took place. And what do we have over here? Hashem said to Abraham, I will make your name great. And as we sit here today in 2021, we see that fulfillment of that. We see Abraham's name being great. That's it. He's in the headlines, right? Just last year, we had these historic agreements made between Israel and Bahrain, Israel and the UAE. And of course, what were they called? The Abraham Accords. Here we are, 2021, Vagadla Shemecha. But what made his name great? Why was his name great? What was the fulfillment of his name being great? Because he took that great name and directed it, Vayikra b'Shem Hashem. He directed that towards calling out in the name of Hashem. He attached himself to that eternity, and he thereby gained this aspect of eternity. It's almost a quote from what we say when we say our whole Yiska service at Beth Jacob, right? That when you connect to that which is eternal, you too gain that aspect of eternity. And that is what Abraham did. Agadla Shemecha. It wasn't the great name that the Dor Haflaga of Babel that they tried to do, separating themselves from God, disconnected themselves from God. It was through Vayikra b'Shem Hashem. And everything Avram does is this calling out in the name of Hashem. That's what it is all about for him. And he makes stumbles. He trips along the way. And the Torah, this shows the veracity of our Torah, that we are brutally honest and we don't turn people into demagogues, but they are human beings. And that's why by the birth of Moshe, the Torah says very clearly, and a man from the house of Levi took a woman from the house, or took a daughter of Levi, and she conceived, and she had a son, and that was Moshe. We don't turn people into gods, right? If you turn a person into a god, you're actually lowering humanity. He's a god. What do you want from me? We don't turn people into gods. We're human beings who have the ability to become God-like through our connecting to that which is eternal. And that is what our mitzvot are, and that is what our mission is. So the Lech Lecha that we began with, the go to you, is a lifelong mission that each of us are given. to connect ourselves to that which is eternal, to thereby gain that eternity. And that's the Lech Lecha. We said before, to go to you, to become who you can become. We are, I forget who says this, right? Do I have a soul? Do I have a soul? No, I don't have a soul. I have a body. Meaning, the question, do I have a soul, means you're a physical being. And the question is, do you have a soul? The answer is no. I'm not a physical being that has a soul. I am a spiritual being that has a body. So no, I don't have a soul. I have a body. Who is the I? If I have a soul, I is the physical self, and I have a soul. If I have a body, then who is the I? I am the spiritual self, and I have a body. And that's the Lech Lecha, to go to your very essence, to who you really are. And what are we? We are a soul that has a body. That's what we are. Going back to Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Once they ate from the Eitz Hadat, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they became confused, all of a sudden they became embarrassed that they were naked. Why were they embarrassed? We've mentioned this idea before. They were embarrassed because before that they were a soul. And a soul needed a mode of transportation. It needed a horse. The body was the horse, and that's how they got around. We've all gone horseback riding. The fact that the horse was naked didn't embarrass us at all, because it's a horse, it's not me. Once they ate from the Eitz Hadas, there was this confusion of who am I? Am I a body? Am I a soul? All of a sudden, it's not the horse that's naked, that's me that's naked. Please pass the fig leaf. I like to cover myself up. I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable over here. Right? It's this confusion of our identity that we grapple with. But the Lech Lecha is that through connecting ourselves to this eternity, to Hashem who is eternal, through the Torah that he gave us, the mitzvot that he gave us, which are all pathways of connectivity, that is how we reach this point of Lech Lecha, of coming to who we truly are, which is, I am a spiritual self that has a body. And once the body expires, I continue on then to the next stage of my sojourn, because that is what I am. That's what I am about. Okay, my friends, we'll call it over here. Good to see everybody, and hope everybody had a good Yom Tovim. Many of you I saw throughout, and it's good to be back in rhythm over here. Okay, so a Shavua Tov, everybody. A good day. And,
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Jenny, will you stay on for a few moments?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Okay.